Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios at Santander Stadium. This is York's local sports show, talking local sports on York's local sports station. Welcome to Game Day with GameTimePA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
And welcome once again to another edition of Game Day with GameTimePA. I'm your host, Steve Navaroli, alongside the irreplaceable Brandon Stoneberg. Brandon, welcome. Good to have you back after a couple-week hiatus.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I come back. We're in a new studio. We got warm weather. When I left, we were in snow and bundled up in the cold and with the wind blowing into the studio, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, and of course today, that wouldn't be bad over there,
yeah, right.
but nonetheless, you're right. And Teddy, welcome. I'm spending most of my day with you, as it turns out.
Me and Steve got a lot of quality time today. Both got to the office at noon, and we've been hanging out ever since.
Exactly. Hasn't changed. Even rode over together. So
that's
how
exactly
you like
right.
That? But hey guys, a lot of stuff going on. Certainly, we're spring sports season finally. Then the nice weather. We're in full force here, folks. Your place to check things out is definitely GameTimePA. .com and hit us on Twitter, GameTimePA_SC. Please follow that. You'll get scoring updates, information, a whole lot of stuff. Also, GameTimePA.com. You can watch this show, not just listen. You can watch the live stream of this show. And if you're in your car, certainly thanks for tuning in to Radio 1350, WOYK.com, or the mobile app for that. So a lot of stuff happening, certainly high school sports. We got Final Four stuff coming up that WOYK is going to cover this weekend, along with some Hershey Bears hockey. So great stuff now. And hey, why don't we start the show with giving out some game balls?
Sure. I'm going to go a little bit off the radar here and go to Littlestown softball, a roster with not a single senior on it, and a first-year head coach who used to be a New Oxford assistant coach is 4-0. They're in first place. I saw them yesterday. They dominated Biglerville. They've outscored their opponents. I forget my math. I think it was 50-5 so far in 4 games, running through the division so far. Off to a great start. They got some great kids out there. Caitlin Yealy and Mackenzie Summers. I want to give the game balls to Yealy. They combined yesterday for 8 for 8. Combined, they hit for the cycle, but they had, I think, combined 4 RBIs, and they pitched a complete game together and held Biglerville to 5 hits and 2 runs. So Littlestown softball is off to a good start.
And Yealy was a returning all-star, and I remember that. And, of course, you get a former assistant from New Oxford. That would have been an assistant who was with the New Oxford program when they made a state run back in 2011. I believe it's one and the same.
Yeah,
so.
and he said that Littlestown has some good managers before him. He's had to come in, and he has talent. I mean, it's a young team, but he has a lot of talent. He said a lot of it's just getting them to play the right fundamentals, and everything else has kind of been done for him. He's got a good roster there, and he likes his kids a lot.
Good to see, especially a struggling program picking things up. So, Ted Man, what you got?
Well, I guess I got to ask for permission here for starters. Can I give it to a former YAIA athlete, or do they need to be playing?
No, go ahead and give it, because I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, I had a couple. Steve does know where I'm going with the first one. Jade Argenbright, former Central York swimmer. She just won PSAC Swimmer of the Year. And Steve, obviously, with his swimming connections in this community, very, very familiar with Jade. And we were talking about her earlier in the office. She had a great sophomore year. Obviously, she won PSAC Swimmer of the Year. Recently, she won 3 individual titles at the PSAC Championships. She also earned All-American honors. And she also did very well at the NCAA Championships. So she really had a standout year. I will also hand one also to a high school athlete, Cassie Rickroad, DeLone Catholic softball. Great pitcher, great hitter. She struck out 5 and drove in 4 runs in DeLone's 12-11 extra inning win over Bermudian Springs earlier this week. And then yesterday she had 2 bombs against Waynesboro in their 15-3 win. So
another returning all-star from last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, good props there on Jade. I mean, certainly, I watched her entire high school career, and, she was always good.
Yeah, you have an incredible story about her.
Yeah, I mean, she was always a very, very good swimmer. But I think once she got to college, I'm sure she's maybe doing a little more weight training, to improve so drastically at this point in time. She's probably 19, 20 years old. To step up at this level certainly just tells me how incredibly hard she's working.
Well, and
props to her for that.
Steve told me something interesting that I didn't know actually today. So I don't want to. This is what have I learned. I'm going to do it in segment 1. I guess female swimmers actually typically you see them peak more in their mid-teens, you would say, where male swimmers may be in their 20s. There's still room for growth, but you explained that.
Yeah, well, what it is, it's simple physics. I mean, your physiological body changes, and men as they come in, and they're boys or young men at 14, 15. I heard Troy Sowers described it to me. He called it man muscles. The man muscles come in 17, 18, 19, 20, and that. So the male body actually develops more. The female body, that development changes, and hips, busts, and it's a physiological difference that maybe at 14 they didn't have to deal with. Now, certainly there's always going to be exceptions, but let's face it, if you just look, and now you got to deal in a sport like swimming where you're talking water drag, water pull, they've got to be able to keep up with the strength required to do it. And it's amazing. And listen, let's look at the Olympics. Missy Franklin was 17 winning a gold medal.
Right.
Michael Phelps still won a gold medal at 26, 27.
Still going strong.
Yeah. And you look at what was it, Dara Torres a few years ago made the Olympic team at 40. I don't even know how that's possible.
Right.
So, and much credit to Jade and any athlete that's been able to do it. Another great example of that, Christina Janoski was a Dover grad. Terrific high school swimmer. She got even better in college.
She's a great college swimmer.
And right now Morgan Paff, Redline grad, is doing it at Rutgers. Aaron Merkel, York Suburban, is doing it at Villanova. So it can be done. I think it's harder. And honest to goodness, at the risk, I don't want to sound sexist, but I think that for females doing that, they're required to work harder.
Why so?
Just because I think they're dealing with more physiological changes.
Understood.
So and less advantageous. The men are dealing with physiological changes, but it helps because it's muscle.
Right.
I look at that. I did back in the Stone Ages, we did very little weight training, but I was a whole lot stronger as a 23-year-old.
No doubt.
Than I was as a 17-year-old, and my biggest workout was probably the old 12-ounce curl.
Yeah.
So we're luckier that it happens.
I love the old 12-ounce curl.
Yeah, exactly. But it happens a little more naturally. So
yeah, I'm with you. Well, she really. Yeah, I felt like every single week putting together the weekly record, college spotlight. I felt like every other week she was doing something amazing. So I'm not surprised by the award itself, but it's a big award to win a conference swimmer of the year.
It's a really good swimming conference. And let me tell you what, there's a school east of here, Westchester. Brandon, you're certainly familiar with it. Westchester is one of the greatest swimming programs in any division. They're in Division 2, and now most of the attention has been on their boys program, which we have a local grad, Brad Strathmeyer, is doing great, won national championships there, and they recruit internationally. Their best swimmer last year was from Russia.
Wow.
And he was amazing. I talked to him. I saw him swim because the PSAC championships are held here in York. And when you saw somebody like that, you're like going, whoa. Well, Jade does not go to Westchester. And I think this is even more impressive to this award because this award has been very heavily gone to Rams over the years.
Sophomore year, essentially, she just left Central York, so get the game ball, take it,
Great
go.
Stuff.
Now her year's complete.
That's
she got my game
so
ball.
obviously I love that choice. So I'm going to throw a quick game ball, but we talk about them every week. The Northeastern volleyball team just crushed all their opponents en route to winning their own tournament, the Bobcat Invitational, including a third straight win over the previously number 1 ranked Sagertown team, and previously number 1 because Northeastern has certainly taken over that ranking in AA. So congrats to the Bobcats. Athletes of the week, we had a co-athlete of the week. Did you guys, I don't know if you noticed it, Brandon, Teddy, the athletes of the week.
This happens every week now.
But when I put them up on Monday, look at that. 2 of them with 233 votes.
And it happened a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah, you remember that. So those winners, Maddie Staub, Susquehannock softball, 2-run homer and a win in the pitching circle and a 4-0 win against Southwestern. Speaking of Southwestern, Lauren Schmidt, 6 goals in a 12-8 girls lacrosse.
Brandon covered that game.
That's New Oxford.
I was there. It was very impressive. I think she had 5 at halftime and then kind of cruised in the second half. Aaron Brown took over. But she called it afterward one of her best offensive performances. It was her first game, and at this season where she knew she had to kind of step up. Last year, she was more of a complimentary player when they had Braxton Reddiner and Kavanaugh there as well. Reddiner left to go to New Oxford. Kavanaugh graduated, so now Schmidt steps up into that number 1 spot, number 1 scoring role, and she had a huge game. She's had a couple good games since then. Her and Aaron Brown are still leading the team. I think they're 2-2 right now. But she called her one of her best offensive performances, which, I mean, obviously 6 goals is hard to top.
No question.
And then, in a segue from that, it's funny because you saw one of the athletes of the week's performance, and I did then the other one on the male side, Cade Gold of Doylestown. How about 2 goals in the opening 1:13 of your season?
Great way to start the year.
That's how you start.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's how you start.
And, Cade's a junior there, quarterback for the Wildcats football team in that, and Doylestown won 7-3. Past red line, really impressive, and he got 31% of the vote.
Doylestown's off to a hot start too. They're undefeated right now.
That's a good team. They're deep. They got a lot of kids, and keep in mind they're off to that start. Maybe their 2 top players are not playing because of it.
And they've gotten a big one. Redline's another tough team. They got that one out of the way early.
Yeah, exactly. Nope. The Wildcats look really good. And just to jump to the gold, I believe was also our male regional athlete.
Absolutely. No, great call. Gold definitely won our regional athlete of the week. This is picked between our communities in Chambersburg, Lebanon, Lancaster, and of course York.
Hanover.
And Hanover. That was really unprofessional, Brandon. And Hanover. Hanover's tops of that list. That was. And then Mercersburg Academy Track and Field, Tatiana Purnell. She started the season in style. She picked up 2 victories in a 5-team meet on Tuesday. Then she had a gold medal and a pair of silvers at the Tim Cook Invitational on Saturday. So she had a really strong performance at the track and field venue. So those were our regional, GameTimePA regional athletes of the week.
The Cook Invitational is a top-notch competition, but what's ironic is we can actually kind of say the Wildcats got in on both those awards. As a freshman, Tatiana Purnell was on the Doylestown girls track team.
Interesting.
Really, really funny when her name surfaced.
That's why her headshot popped up so quick in the archives.
Exactly, for that award that her popped up. She's just a terrific athlete, nice kid. So congrats to her, folks. You can vote on the athletes of the week. We usually get them up sometime Saturday.
Sunday 6 a.m.
Okay.
Set your alarms.
So 6 a.m. Sunday, and you have till 5 p.m. Monday to vote for the athletes of the week. We love it when we see a couple thousand votes cast in basically a 36-hour period. So join us, folks. You can do that on the yorkblog.com/varsity, the Varsity Beat blog. Good to have your votes in. And on that note, fellas, let's go to our first break.
Let's do it.
We'll be back after these messages. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill. And don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy. Energy for life.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey.
And the Washington Capitals.
Hearing a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate. The last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. And skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to yorkskate.com.
Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year Mark Mason for Revs Hot Stove Weekly every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Putting a winning team on the field starts with a good manager. Murray Securis believes the same is true when it comes to all-star health benefits. And Murray Securis Choice Benefits Marketplace just made managing that call a whole lot easier. Employers can now offer a comprehensive benefits program that controls costs and gives employees the education and resources to be active in managing their health care. Designed for employer groups of 20 or more, Choice Benefits Marketplace gives your employees the power of choice and simplifies benefits administration for employers. Contact Murray Securis or go to choicebenefitsmarketplace.com.
Hi, I'm Susquehannock girls basketball coach Dave Schreiner. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
And we're back on GameDay with GameTimePA. Steve Navarrete, Kevin Feinberg, and Stoneberg. And guys, the high school baseball season has finally gotten on the field, if you will. The weather break, field's starting to dry out a little bit in that. And what do you know, Monday night, 2 no-hitters were thrown. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Real interesting. And there was one last week.
Yeah.
There's 3 no-hitters early in the year.
Yeah, although this was not an 11 walk, 10 strikeout no-hitter with a gazillion pitches, I'm assuming. But Avery Strayer of Downstown threw a no-hitter, what is that, a 5-inning no-hitter, allowed a walk, and another batter reached on an error, but Downstown beat Dover 15-0, so 5 innings, and got some offensive help from Jake Starner and Cody Somerville. Starner 3 for 4, Somerville 2 for 4, a bunch of RBIs, which you'll have in a 15-0 game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about that. And I'm going to let you introduce the other no-hitter as a Central alum.
Oh, yeah, the Panthers of Central York, no-hitter again. I mean, it's against Kennerdale, which some kids in high school don't have the greatest opinion of in some sports. But
I'll say Bo, yeah. Bo Burris.
Bo Burris surrendered just.
It's not Boo, Brandon.
Yeah, Bo.
Boo Bears. Bo Bears surrendered just 1 walk, had 9 strikeouts, threw a no-hitter to lead Central York past Kennerdale. Great win for the Panthers. Great moment for him. I didn't realize how common, I guess, no-hitters are at the high school level. The first one I saw was like, wow, a no-hitter, and then I saw a couple more pop up in the box score the next week. But it's been pretty nice. And then Adam Reed added a grand slam. Talk about some run support and a grand slam in a 6-run inning.
Tyler Anderson, former sports clerk in the YDR sports department with GameTimePA, and now he works on ad sales in our building. He asked the question to me last week, do you prefer the kid with the real power arm who's throwing fast, walking, or the pinpoint control? And I guess I was wondering where you stood on that.
Well, I mean, number one, the game probably moves along much quicker with a control pitcher.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
yeah,
I
okay,
think that,
yeah.
But I think just from the game itself. Although, listen, there's always some merits to sit, and I remember seeing guys 20 years ago that just threw the ball so hard that you thought, man, that's really something,
right?
And that. So, but I mean, control's got to enter into play at some point in time, and that. So, I mean, I prefer more the pinpoint. I'm more for let's see what the fielders can do.
Good secondary pitches instead of just a straight fastball.
I think probably at the high school level you can beat a batter with placement just as easily as you can beat them by blowing it by them as well. And then if you're going with someone who just throws it hard, you have the risk of having a lot of walks and control issues as well.
And you know what? I think that this is the one area where the game has changed over the years that, listen, when I got in the box as a kid, if somebody threw hard, I hated it. Mm-hmm. Well, now they see, they practice more indoors. They take so much more batting practice now. I think kids are ready for fastballs more.
I think that's such a great point, and you just brought back crazy memories, like when there was always that kid or that guy that he was making his way around the league, and he knew he threw gas, and you were waiting to face that guy.
We didn't want to face that guy when I would see that.
I mean, I guess you anticipated it, whether it was good or bad. Yeah. But there was always a little extra juice or anxiety stepping in the box against those guys.
I mean, but you know what? And I think that is a rule that's applying to baseball probably from high school on up. Listen, we're here at Santander Stadium, and you watch a Revs game out on the field. The guys chucking 90, they'll get hit.
Yeah.
A guy with control throwing 82. I mean, Corey Thurman, York Revs star, best example of that. He's a control guy. He's a finesse pitcher. That's how he gets guys out. It's certainly not by smoke because he doesn't throw it.
Right. Well, I think, and then, of course, not to completely deviate from it, you've seen such an increase in power arms on the pro level, but that's obviously pro baseball. I was just curious where you stood specifically.
But even now, Justin Verlander, obviously my personal favorite. He throws mighty hard, but he's got some pretty good out. He's got a couple pretty good out pitches too. And without that, so I think there's a whole lot more, to that.
Yeah, it just stood out. It stood out. I think again, I'll bring back Vipperman on Kennerdale, the no hitter with 10 Ks, 11 walks. That was an unbelievable stat line, and it resonated, I think.
Yeah, and again, certainly we're not trying to take away from his accomplishment in that, because you want to talk a yeoman's workhorse, whatever.
Not at all. I
cliche
respect.
You want to say performance, but that it's a little bit different than somebody who's able to walk one.
No question.
And now part of the reason that I think you see more no-hitters in high school, it's easy to say, well, the batters aren't as good, but I think it could be more if you're on a team that has a good offense, you stand a better chance to throw a no-hitter, because like both of these examples, one was in 5 innings, the other was in 6. Well, if those are 1 and 2 less innings, you've got to throw to complete.
Very true. Also, early in the year.
Early in the year is another big factor.
I think pitchers and defense might have a little. Although then again, these teams are putting up 15 and 11 runs respectively. So.
Yeah, but it still helps though.
I think it does. Timing as a hitter, you get your groove a little bit later. So
yeah, exactly.
Especially these teams who haven't been on the field very often with all the cancellations and weather situations. I talked to a softball team yesterday who have had 1 practice so far today. They've had 4 games and 1 practice so far.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, they've been on the diamond 1 time outside of a game.
What's their record?
4-0.
Yeah, but everything else they did was inside.
Yeah,
and that's and that's a fact. I mean, the good news is everybody's dealing with it. With the possible exception of Red Lion, although snow covered their turf. But because they actually have turf for their baseball team, so which is pretty clutch.
That's pretty clutch.
Red Lion has turf on their baseball field.
Yeah, well, they play baseball.
We're talking like Astrodome turf. We're talking
no. It's field turf. Like it's the same as their football, because they play at Horn Field.
Oh wow, okay.
So basically, they convert after the football season is over. They convert it to the baseball usage, which essentially is just moving the visitors' bleachers then to both sides behind home plate, and that.
So those steep stands, is that behind the outfield then?
Yes,
okay.
That would be behind the outfield.
That's got to be pretty cool.
I think it sounds really cool.
And what's interesting is it's 2 different, you're at the same place, but it looks totally different, even though, but when they turfed the football field 2 years ago, they went ahead and did the baseball field, and I think it's certainly helped, they lose a lot less games, to rainouts and that. They host a lot. They have great lights there. So, a lot of nighttime baseball. It's a cool place, and I highly recommend seeing a baseball game at Horn Field.
Yeah, I definitely need to go out and check it out. Now, they actually won a real interesting game yesterday. We had Colin Snyder covering the game. They came back and won 5-4. They actually committed 6 errors and still found a way to win. And
that's like a football team committing 6 turnovers and still coming with it.
Yeah, no question. So
sure, it drove Coach Darren Hake a little crazy, but
yeah, no question. So
it's a good team down there.
They have a good squad. I think there's some decent. Northeastern obviously they seem like they're going to be right there again. So some good early season ball.
West York, pair of big comebacks this week. They
beat
down
Dallastown.
4-1, came back to beat Dallastown, and then trailed Spring Grove. and scored 2 unearned in the bottom of the 7th. Ended up winning in 9 innings. So, real excited. And I'm going to tip my hat to Brandon Schaefer, first varsity at bat on what's been, probably the area's top, 2-time state champ, one of the area's top baseball teams, cracked the doubles first varsity at bat. That's pretty good.
Another good start, kind of like Cade Cole with the cross. Another great start for him.
Although Tyler Seifert also, he delivered a walk-off base hit earlier in the week. So they had some good performances from their squad early in the season.
Exactly. And that's, it's great to see, and above all, it gives us some fodder to talk about. We like that. We need that. So
you mentioned Spring Grove quick, Steve. I mean to interrupt you. You mentioned Spring Grove. We had some questions down in the Hanover area. What happened to the Rockets? Not everyone realizes they're dealing with, they lost double-digit seniors from last year graduation. I think it was 13 or 14 seniors graduated, and what team has to deal with that?
That's a lot. I did their senior day.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, they lost.
It was never ending. The amount of seniors.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, they have a first-year head coach. He's been there as an assistant for a while, but they're a long-time manager. I can't remember his name.
Eric Ziegler.
Ziegler, yes. Yep, stepped down after the season. And they're kind of in rebuilding mode, so people are kind of worried about them. They're in rebuilding mode. They might still have one of the players of the year, Matt Brooks, but he doesn't have a ton around him right now. He has a lot of young players around him. But that's an update on Spring Grove. The last year's league champs, I believe.
Yeah, and it's part of it. It very few programs cannot. Double-digit seniors.
Who could possibly survive?
That is really hard in a sport like baseball or even softball.
That's possibly an entire lineup. Brooks started,
Brooks
so
was in there,
you didn't lose all 9 starters, but that's an entire lineup and maybe a few of your top rotation guys.
Spring Grove up Dalton Hoyles, amazing beard.
Yeah.
His beard game.
Well, I think Dalton left.
Dalton graduated. Dalton's at Shippensburg.
There's another Hoyles there.
Current Hoyles on the team.
I can't remember. Derek, I think.
It is Derek.
His beard is in fine form.
His father is a great Oriole.
Of course.
In the Orioles Hall of Fame.
And actually, I heard
first manager here with the Revolution too.
Dalton's off to a fantastic. So Dalton's at Ship.
Yeah.
He's off to a fantastic start there this season as well.
It's he gets a lot naturally, and
right.
It's funny because I first met those boys when Chris took the job here with the Revs back in 2007, and those boys were. They were never small because,
he was never really small.
Chris is a big guy, so, it's just funny see them, in pregame out on the field with their dad here, and, they seem so little, and, one's already in college, and, the other's, is he junior or senior?
I think it's junior.
Yeah, so.
The baseball beard is in vogue.
Mm-hmm.
People like the baseball beard.
The Red Sox got that going, especially a couple years ago.
Yeah, and the A's have continued it with your Josh Reddicks of the world.
Mike Napoli, that's just some shrubbery.
Yeah, no question.
Brian Wilson.
Oh, well, that's just insane. that's not. Napoli is shrubbery that's kind of cool. Wilson's just nuts. But that's just me. So, anyhow, we'll go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of softball. We got some track coming up. We got Uncle Steve coming up. A whole lot of stuff for you. So keep tuned to this station till 6 p.m. when we're done, and keep tuned after that too. Sorry, Daryl, I didn't mean to slight the station. So we'll go to break. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
Hey athletes, does the winter weather dampen your sports training? It doesn't have to. Take your game inside at Backyard University, York's spectacular indoor sports training facility, right at home in your backyard. Located inside Fairmont Gym at 201 South Charles Street in Red Lion, Backyard University is a beautiful state-of-the-art indoor complex for all of your sport needs. Featuring a complete baseball and softball training complex with batting cages, pitching tunnels, and a turf field for the entire team, Backyard hosts camps, clinics, and competitive youth travel teams to play in the region's top tournaments. Join York Revolution greats Jason Espedo, Daryl Harang, and Corey Thurman for one-on-one training. And take your speed and agility to a whole new level with professional trainer David Brixius from Explosive Sports Performance. Play your game year-round at Backyard University, right at home in your backyard. Visit online at backyard-university.com. Hi, I'm Daryl Henry. Join Scott Geis and me every Monday at 4 for your College Spartan Sports Weekly, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Each week, we bring you the latest in Spartan sports, featuring guest appearances from coaches and student athletes. York's home teams play on York's home for local sports. Spartan Sports Weekly, Mondays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hey Revs fans, swing into spring at bundles of savings at the York Revolution. The Swing into Spring ticket plan gets you 6 field box seats to the game of your choice, 2 parking passes, plus admission for 2 to take live batting practice on the field at 2:30 for the Revs' 5 p.m. game against Long Island on Sunday, April 26th. Swing in the spring with the York Revolution. Save when you shop at the Apple Chevrolet ticket office by phone at 717-801-HITS or online at yorkrevolution.com.
Security in life isn't something you just wish for. You build it with a strong financial plan. Start with Northwestern Mutual. Together, we'll design a disciplined and balanced approach to financial security because reaching your goals is something we both want to work toward. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on the Square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
He's a great man. Was Muhammad Ali a thug? He was colorful, controversial. But this is a guy who did something before anybody else did it. And we were okay with it. A lot of us were okay because of how Ali looked. Handsome, well-spoken, the poetry. There was charisma to it. Richard Sherman just came out of a game and started yelling right in our face.
Dan Patrick.
On Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm York High Boys basketball coach Troy Sowers. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
We're back on Game Day with GameTimePA. Steve we're going to stay on the diamond, guys, but we're going to switch to the other diamond, if you will, and some softball action. And, you know, it's funny. Kennerdale, pair of big wins this week. And but Kennerdale has been historically a pretty good softball program in that. And I can, when I say historically, I mean, I can take it back to the mid-'90s when they had a tiny, about a, pitcher that might have weighed 100 pounds who could absolutely bring it. I mean, she threw hard. Stacy Schofield was her name. I remember it well. And her sister was actually a catcher, and a great combination. But the Rams, they've been a very good program for a while. However, still, that being said, early season, they face defending Division IV champ DeLone, and then Division I co-champ Dallastown, and they went ahead and took care of business there. So the Rams are off to a good start. Breaking in a new battery, though. Mm-hmm. Alexis Valentine's taken over pitching, and now she got to pitch a little bit when I knew I was going to do this. Last year's starter, I didn't write it in my notes, when last year's starter wasn't there, and I covered her a few times. But anyhow, she kind of filled in when she had to, and I know I did see one game that Alexis pitched. She was pretty clutch.
So you knew coming into the year there was a very suitable replacement.
Yes,
obviously.
Yeah, and I think the question was where were they gonna, how well they were gonna hit, because there certainly is some good pitchers around. I know Dallastown returned a pitcher, Jalen Harbold, and that who threw last year, and that, and that's kind of that thing early is stringing your hits together, and obviously they're doing that.
And that's another good thing for Kennerdale. And in the last segment, I threw an unnecessary slight at them, and I come back, and now they're at the top of the softball chain. But a great start for them to beat DeLone and Dallastown, like you said, two great teams early in the schedule, confidence boost, and if you could beat those two early on, the rest of the schedule's got to seem a little bit easier.
They have a player on the team who's really hit the ball well, and Nabrov. It seems like they have a very, it's kind of a team or a team approach or a committee approach. But Kayla Beach had 2 RBIs last night. She had a big double, and on Monday she had the game-winning triple. So it seems like they're filling, at least early in the year, they're getting enough.
Oh yeah, and and they, again, I mean, I think that they've been they've had a good feeder program coming up through a very active travel organization down in that area. And I think it's helped. And, what's neat is, the kids have come in wanting to play for the high school. That was the ultimate goal, and I think softball maybe is a little more conducive to that because there's less crossover.
It's unbelievable it's not unbelievable, but that is just so very important when the kids are raised with the expectation that they're going to play that sport. It really makes or breaks these high school programs.
Oh, no doubt. It
really does.
In a lot of sports. I mean, and it's easy to, immediately a lot of people are going to go to basketball and that because the strong AAU play around here. But, it's in other sports, it's huge. Softball, great example. Lacrosse, terrific example. And girls lacrosse, Kennerdale has been the pinnacle ever since. They won every league title since there's been girls lacrosse.
And we've talked about it in every season, fall, spring, winter, that a lot of the big sports like that. When we talked to lacrosse coaches before the season, which schools have the sustained success? We talked about it on the show before. It's the ones with the great feeder programs.
Yep.
It's the ones who build their talent pools bigger by getting them interested early on.
Yeah, and again, you'll see this. Northeastern volleyball is a great feeder program. And now one sport that I think the area was kind of slow to adapt decent feeder programs was field hockey. In the fall, and because of it, you would see a lack of success.
Sure.
At the district level when they got out of the league and that's actually improved greatly over the last 10 years, and teams are more successful because of it. In fact, when you were at Central, there was some really, really good field hockey. Erin Reynolds, I believe, would have been around your year. She was one of the best I've seen.
I think we had a few division titles while I was there. Yeah.
And that's says something there.
You have these programs that are consistently good, and then you have programs that are consistently poor. And I'll say that trend right there, those feeder programs, those young developmental programs, I'm willing to say that has 75% to do with it.
It's got something to do with it, sure. Maybe it'd be difficult to quantify, but you're probably getting the ballpark there with that percentage. So, I wanted to talk about it. I perused stats quite a bit on Tuesday when I was preparing for the show. The numbers from the West York Eastern game that took place on Monday, 11-5 win for the Bulldogs, but these are crazy. Kelsey Weaver, 4 for 4, a double, 2 triples, and 3 runs batted.
Unbelievable.
So she was a home run short of the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. But 2 triples.
Yeah.
And we're not talking, there's a lot of open fields and that, we're not, talking a ton of home runs, but still, that's something. Her teammate, Kiera Hepler, 3 hits with a home run in that game. And, of course, Kiera, I believe, is the sister of Caden, who pitches for Winthrop, led the Bulldogs to a state title as a pitcher. But, the same game now, Eastern, how about that? They lose 11-5, but Sierra Arnold hits 2 home runs and a triple.
Unbelievable.
Think of that slugging percentage.
There's some big, there were big offensive numbers put up in recent days. I think that and York Catholic won 21-0 yesterday. Astounding. But that's unbelievable. Pair of bombs and a triple.
And if to win 21-0 if you're playing softball, you have to get to that pretty quickly because once the third inning comes around, that's past the mercy rule. So you have to score
15, that because it's 15 after 3, 10 after 5.
So if that's a softball score, they got to do all that in the first 3 innings.
3 innings, So, and what's interesting, or even 2.5 to a degree if you're the home team.
It's unbelievable.
So,
you talked West York. I want to bring this up. Division II, only one team below 500 in Division II right now. You have West York in there. Gettysburg off to a great start. That whole division, we've seen this in a couple different sports. That division is stacked.
I knew that was going to be a good division going into the season when I, kind of looked at some of the, the players returning and the teams and that. And I that's a trend I think is going to continue. Mm-hmm. And softball and baseball are our lone sports remaining with 4 divisions. And just so and just to make people aware of it, if a Division I team plays a Division II team, that counts as a league game.
The crossover, right?
And the crossover, and the same applies to 3 and 4. So so that's those are league games, and I think it changes the dynamic. When it comes down to championship week, because that's basically decided on your division or your league record.
No question.
But it helps if you're able to beat the other division too.
Yeah, no question.
You know, I mean, certainly, and West York baseball helped themselves by doing that this week, and so we'll see where it goes from there.
So historically, I know you wrote your column a few weeks ago that teams in YAIA softball, the successful ones, essentially don't really rebuild as much as they reload. Right. Early in the season, are you seeing that trend continue?
I would think so. I mean, I think a school that will get a feel for would be Dallastown. I mean, they've graduated in the last 2 years. They've graduated an unbelievable amount of talent.
Kids leaving waves.
But the same is applied to Central. But I don't know that Central maybe will fall back because they had some pretty amazing players.
Sure.
Returning. So I mean, I think it depends. I mean, it's nice when you have in Spring Grove baseball, great example. How great was it to have 13 seniors?
Yeah.
I mean, in that because
you kind of put all your eggs in one basket, though. For their senior year, you might have a great year, and then,
but what happens the next year? So it's certainly a challenge, and and I think that how they deal with it. But softball's also a sport that a freshman can come in, and especially a pitcher.
A great pitcher.
A great pitcher can come in and make such a difference, and it might not make the difference it did years ago. I mean, because they, keep in mind the mound, circle in softball used to be, 6 inches closer than it is now. A ton of 1-0 games back then.
Yeah.
That you don't see as much now and moving.
Oh, you have a great pitcher. You can just ride that horse.
Oh yeah. Same thing applies to college. I mean,
no question.
I love watching the Division I World Series when ESPN televises
the same pitcher throws the entire tournament.
Yeah, but to see the excitement of the game and that's a great level.
It's a great level for sure. But yeah, if you have pitching's the ultimate equalizer in baseball and softball. If you have a great horse pitcher in softball, she can throw hundreds of innings.
Oh yeah,
and just that underhand motion is not nearly as taxing.
I don't know if I did a story on that many years ago. I actually played in the slow pitch league here, and I always found it amazing that they could generate such power.
Yeah,
by throwing underhand like that, and it's the hips, it's not the arm.
That'd be
interesting.
That'd be a good story to pull back for like a Throwback Thursday. See, Steve doesn't have to write seperate Throwback Thursday stories. He just pulls the ones he wrote 10 years ago. And just
Throwback Thursday.
20 years
Steve
ago.
wrote this 20 years ago.
Republish it.
Really, I could bring that back and just change the names maybe, but pretty interesting. Yeah, really, I might steal that one. But anyhow, we'll be back. We're gonna talk a little high school track after the break. So stay tuned. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
Turning a double play takes teamwork, and so does preparing for life's challenges. Murray Securus works with you, hand in hand, providing thoughtful solutions to help you plan for the future. Team up with Murray Securus for safer, more secure risk management, personal insurance, health benefits, wealth management, even cutting-edge human resource solutions for individuals and small to large businesses. Living life in a winning way just takes a little teamwork. Call Murray Securus today at 397-9600 or go to murrayins.com.
Under center with McNabb and Malone.
You cannot win a Super Bowl with that kind of defense.
Offensively, we know what they're capable of doing, but they didn't run the football extremely well. But you got to remember, this offense from Chicago, Matt Forte, it all starts with the running game with Matt Forte, and then it goes to what do you decide to do with Jay Cutler? Because he's the Tony Romo of the Midwest. Just stay patient, because it's going to happen.
Under center, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on NBC Sports Radio.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Ryan Vipperman of Kennardale Baseball. The numbers tell the story in this one, what was a very unique no-hit performance from Vipperman. 10 strikeouts, 11 walks, and a 9-2 win over New Oxford. And this week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Morgan Day of Kennardale Lacrosse. Day netted 12 goals in a 2-game span, netting 5 goals in a 17-7 win over West York on Tuesday, then tallied 7 goals and an assist in a 19-1 win over Red Lion. For Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, I'm Ray Jensen.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit shipleyenergy.com. Spring is here, and Cannonball Charlie has his ammunition.
Here he swings and hammers it. Watch this one go. It's a game winner.
York Revolution baseball is back.
It's deep. It is gone. A high drive deep down the left field line. It is gone. A walk-off.
Take that, every other team. The new Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm West York boys basketball coach Bill Ackerman. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Back on GameDay with GameTimePA, Sports Radio 1350. Talk a little high school track now, and sometimes guys during the dual meet season, you know, all these things go on, and it's almost it's very difficult to keep up with everything. Then once we get towards the end of the year and we're at the league meet and of course the district and state meets, it streamlines the competition, if you will.
I don't know where we would be without our sports clerks. The high school, the box scores they're firing in, the high school track box scores.
Yeah.
I mean, it's intensive stuff, man. Yeah. It's real deal stuff.
And it takes a while. I mean,
it does.
I tell you what. I mean, for whatever reasons, I had went quite a while without covering any dual meets. Now I'm almost always at the league meet, always at districts, always at states. But for whatever reason, just didn't. And last year I did two dual meets, and I remember just typing the box took me like 35 minutes.
No question.
But as well, I mean, but it's essentially it's two boxes.
And again, you're not really
boys and girls.
If you're kind of dusting off the cobwebs a little bit doing it, yeah, it's going to take you a solid half hour.
Absolutely. And no, you're right about that. And one of the performances that came out of Monday, Eastern York sophomore Maddie McLean. She won the
great school year. She was great she was great in the spring, wasn't
she?
In the fall,
in the fall, cross country, yep. She won the 1600 and the 3200. Figure that so great in cross country, but also, the differences. And you would say going into a meet, she stood the best chance to win the 16 and the 32, but then she anchors the team's 32 relay, which okay, you might say. All right. Well, if you can run a 1600, certainly you can run an 800. But now it's different. You got to get a handoff. You got to it's a different dynamic running that in a relay. But they won that, and she was a major part of it. It's a neat kid too. Little story. Her aunt was one of Eastern's best athletes ever.
Very interesting.
As a runner, a distance runner. And I think that has as much to them. Certainly bloodline helps, but Teddy, you haven't been out where Eastern is. Brandon, I'm sure you have. It's kind of hilly there.
Yeah, a lot of hills. So if you're running cross country out there, you're running uphill a lot. That's gonna be tough.
But I think having to train on those hills, I believe certainly pays off.
She had a sensation. She won Athlete of the Week in the spring a handful of times. In the fall. She really has. She's had a great school year, great academic year athletically, and I'm sure in the classroom too. Good job.
I asked her over in the fall during cross country. I said about you get to train on all those hills, and Sam Lewis Park is basically a hill, a park built into a hill. And she said, yeah, but her family has a farm, so she runs on their farm lane constantly.
Interesting.
And, gets so much of her workout that way.
That would make amazing art, getting her in a training session on the farm.
How about it like daybreak?
Amazing.
That, really, that would be cool. I wouldn't have.
I don't know if it's quite Sly Stallone and Rocky IV, running up the mountain in Russia, but it's still, there's some other
That was the first thing I thought of when you said training in the Eastern with the hills. The first connection I made was Rocky.
Rocky IV montage.
Yeah. Wow.
One of the best ever.
Wow. That's odd that you would think of Rocky IV ahead of him running up the steps where there's now the statue.
True.
It's really funny. So, hey, another big performance. York Tech. Here's a school that, they have most of the sports, but certainly not all. But it's kind of a collection of athletes. Well, Deshauna Edwards, javelin, shot, and discus.
When they're good in something, I support it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm fired
cool.
up. Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
It is cool.
And but Here's the deal. You'll see a lot of shot and discus winners. It's probably rarer than you think that all 3 throwing events are won by the same person in one meet.
Interesting. So you're the trifecta is big time.
I think so. And again, well, one of the toughest things is determining when you're going to get, because half this stuff is competing around the same time.
Right.
Sure.
When you go to a track meet, it's crazy. And then you go to like a bigger track meet, like a district meet, and a lot of times you'll have somebody that runs the 1 or the 200. Well, they also maybe triple jump.
Sure.
And it's like they got to. I've seen kids run across the field as much as they run across the track because they got to get from one event to the other.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a wild dynamic.
I just ran. Now I got to go back to the jumping pit, and vice versa. It's really, I kind of made a game. Watching. I forget who the athlete was, but it was Sasha Hornock at Dover. Her first league meet as a freshman, she was in 5 events, and I'm like. She worked just as hard getting to all those events. Maybe it's only 4, but still, she worked just as hard getting to all those events and that. And she went on to an outstanding 4-year career and is doing pretty well at Bucknell.
Yeah, that's pretty class. It's an unbelievable dynamic, and to win all those events really is impressive for her.
Yeah, it is, and again, the throwing motion on all 3 of those is totally different. Yeah. Brandon, how would you do with a shot put?
Not very. I can't. There's nothing in track I can look at and do well. I'm too clumsy to do hurdles. The most meters I've ran was a couple nights ago when I was in the rain at Spring Grove, running from the stadium to my car, which is maybe 10 meters. That was my longest sprint in a long time. Yeah, there's nothing there's nothing track and field I could probably do well.
I think I could be relatively effective in the throwing region, but historically, actually, I hate this. I kind of have a weak arm. I hate to say it. It's embarrassing to say, but I never could really baseball, softball, outfield to infield throw, and I think the shot put would really I would kind of embarrass myself.
And I'm afraid of heights, so I can't do the high jump.
Oh, you really?
I guess that would take the pole vault out too.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So and the thing that is,
right, the pole vault makes a little more. The high jump, both of them would still.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Where some of the kids jump at districts and states, it's high enough.
I mean, you're afraid of heights, and for that split second when you're up there, it'd be terrifying.
Yeah, I stayed away from the track and field sport in my day.
Yeah.
Speaking of pole vault, though, Biglerville, Danny Stoner, another how about 4 events in one night in that same meet in the York Tech Biglerville meet? He was the difference. An 86-63 is a very close. It's really close for a track meet. But you win 4 events, that helps your team. Both hurdles.
Yeah, we did during the spring preview. I think our cover story for track and field. One of them was on him. We had a really great graphic of him during the pole vault from underneath him. It seemed pretty cool.
So you called it?
Yeah, or I didn't call it. Zach Miller, my compatriot down there. Actually, he does more of the track stuff, and he said the guy he's been most impressed with so far is Danny Stoner. Obviously, he's won numerous things, medals, titles.
No, don't give Zach credit. You called it. It's all right. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, Biglerville's off to, from what Zach told me, it's off to a great start. They lived up to the hype, which we kind of expected. Gettysburg's also been a pretty solid team out there as well.
Speaking of Gettysburg, which is one other guy that I noticed, again, preparing for the show, Dan Filler, Gettysburg. He won the 800, 1600, 3200. He also ran on the 3200 winning relay team. Again, if I was in that position, I would be completely gassed after the 800. Yeah. After the 800, I'd be gassed, let alone after 32. I don't think I'd get through it. Some solid representation there.
He was also a standout cross-country runner.
True.
So, and I think that obviously, it's easy to say that ties in, but it does. There's no question about it.
It's good stuff. Now, Brandon, did you have anything to add on lacrosse here?
Yeah, I wanted to pitch lacrosse a little bit here. We've had a pretty solid start to the year. I talked a little bit about how the York Adams was trying to catch up to the rest of the district, and we've had a couple of teams stand up for themselves and do pretty well. On the boys' side, we still have 5 undefeated teams. Susky looks like the real deal. They look dominant. Dallastown and West York are both off to great starts. West York has Hunter Betts, who leads the league, and his assist numbers are insane. In his first 2 games, he had 17 assists, which is unheard of.
That's unbelievable.
And I think through 3 or 4, I have him now at like 25 or 26. He's a great setup guy. And I think Cody Riker, I can't remember the kid's name next to him, scoring most of the goals, being a benefactor of Betts' assist. Red Line looks really strong too. I saw them in person. Their offense, I mean, they got 3 or 4 guys who could score.
You saw one gentleman, I believe by the name of Joe. Was it
Jack
Gamble?
Jack Gamble, yeah. He had
6 goals, 4 dimes.
6 goals. He had a double-digit game. A game after Tanner Reef on their team had 10 points as well. So I mean, they kind of split it up. They share
a lot of firepower.
Yeah, a lot of firepower. And what Coach, I'm drawing a blank on Coach's name. I talked to him afterward though. He says as good as their offense is, their defense is just as strong. Yeah. They have a freshman in net, Serrano, who's done a great job. On the girls' side, we might have the girls' game of the night or game of the year basically tonight, which we're going to be live streaming, I believe, on GameTimePA.
Cannondale, Susquehanna.
Cannondale, Susquehanna on the girls, both undefeated. Susky has 3 girls with 10-plus goals already, which is impressive. Valway, Spates, Welsh, all 10-plus goals. Well, you think that's great. Cannondale has 4 already, including Morgan Day, who has 21. So they've hit the 20 mark already.
Unbelievable.
Cannondale.
It's a 6 p.m. start, as Brandon said, live stream on GameTimePA. So
yep. Both teams have outscored their opponents by 40-plus goals already this year in 4 games. But Cannondale in this series, 15-0 all-time against Susky. Is this year Susky gets them? Well, we'll see. Cannondale's been the dominant team. Susky's kind of the tier right below him. But
Cannondale's having a nice little spring sports run.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they are. I mean, across the board in spring sports, and of course you mentioned lacrosse. I mean, they've never lost a league meet.
Unbelievable.
In girls lacrosse. Now, they did finally lose to York Catholic in the YAI championship game last year.
Right.
But until then, they had never lost to a league team.
Wow.
And made it to the district final one year, which included going to the state tournament. I mean, they've been the premier program.
How have you felt, Brandon, covering lacrosse in this area? Obviously, your first spring here. Have you? Yeah. How do you feel how the teams stack up, and what is your overall being a Maryland guy and someone who's followed the game very closely over the years?
Right, it's been a lot of fun. And covering lacrosse doesn't feel like a job. I mean, covering sports in general never feels like a job, but covering lacrosse it's a lot of fun. They're always very gracious to have you out there. It's a growing sport in this area as opposed to in Maryland where it's already established.
Right,
and
right.
I've made jokes about how in Maryland the attendance for lacrosse games is just as high, if not higher, than football games in most areas in Maryland, which is
right. Unbelievable.
And here, I mean, it's not as doom and gloom as I had heard beforehand. I mean, there are, there's been decent crowds, decent followings. And a lot of these teams are good. The talent level is a little bit lower. There's a big drop off. The good teams in the York Adams are good teams. But
right.
then the bottom teams in York Adams have a lot.
They're the bottom.
Yeah, they have a lot of work to do. I mean, there's just the talent level. It's just a young sport here. Kids here haven't been playing for as long as the kid. In Maryland, you're 2 years old. You're picking. As soon as you learn to stand, you're picking up a lacrosse stick.
The feeder programs, tradition, getting the kids starting young. So, but you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, and the great teams here they're very good. It's gonna be a great matchup tonight for Cannondale, Susquehanna.
No question. Check it out. GameTimePA.
All right, Brandon, what's next?
My favorite segment of the show is next, Uncle Steve. In this one, there's no gimmicks, no games, no quizzes. I'm going to put Steve on a soapbox with some serious topics and see how he feels about them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
no
good or
gimmicks,
bad.
games, or quizzes.
No, we're going right for the jugular in this one. So
I don't know if that's good or bad, but either way, we'll be back for it. So stay tuned. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
This is a Radio PA news update. Non-union workers, baggage handlers, and aircraft cleaners have gone on strike at Philadelphia International Airport protesting what they say are low wages and other unfair practices. They want the contractors to employ them to abide by a living wage law by requiring minimum pay of at least $10.88 an hour. There's no word thus far if airline operations are being affected. Legislative budget hearings are over, and now state lawmakers and the governor are facing a 3-month period of tense and potentially combative negotiations. Brad Chrisman reports.
Governor Tom Wolf reached for the stars when he rolled out his ambitious budget plan last month, but Senate Majority Leader Jake Corman says reality is going to have to set in as the governor gets ready for critical negotiations with the Republican majorities of the House and Senate. Corman says some of the governor's tax increases are essentially a non-starter, meaning the revenue won't be there for his desired spending increases. And that's where the two sides stand in this final quarter run-up to the June 30th budget deadline.
One of those final hearings involved the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Deputy Adjutant General Jerry Beck testified the state does not have a database of veterans, which would be helpful when trying to connect them with resources.
Many times I get calls, people looking for veterans to fill positions, and I don't have names to give them to fill those positions. And I think as we keep going and improving our outreach, we can help to set up more of a linkage so that when we get those kinds of calls, we can assist them.
The agency is working on an online system to connect vets with jobs. And in an example of an April Fool's prank gone wrong, a high school student in the Borough of State College sent her mother a text about a shooting, only to have the mother call 911. State College police say officials quickly determined the text was meant to be a joke, but before that happened on Wednesday, 7 officers joined a school resource officer in the school district, and police began following a planned response to a school shooting. The unidentified student may face charges. I'm David Payne, and you're up to date from Radio PA.
Welcome back to The Cat Show. Up next, we have Nico. Nico is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right. A group known especially for their sunspot sleeping, ball chasing, leg rubbing, couch purring, bed leaping, and of course, companionship.
Wonderful. And what breed would you say Nico is?
I'd have to go with a tabbyish Persian kind of mix.
Tremendous cat.
I'd also like to point out her coat's wonderful mix of colors. Is it black, gray, gray-black, brown?
Somewhere in between.
Indeed.
You know, it's always special when we get to see a cat like this.
Just look how she struts.
It's like she owns the place.
And how she's so incredibly cute in her indifference to commands.
A strong-willed feline.
Ah, and see how she curls up and cuddles her person.
The pitch on her purring is simply perfect.
Nice one.
I know. Fantastic cat.
Fantastic indeed. But really the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Nico is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt. Brought to you by
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.
Special report, a deal with Iran. I'm Evan Haining. An agreement has been reached between the 6 major powers and Iranian negotiators on limiting that country's nuclear development. European Union High Representative Federica Mogherini has just announced the deal.
This is a crucial decision, laying the agreed basis for the final text of the joint comprehensive plan of action.
Mogherini said Iran has agreed to inspections. As for sanctions,
the European Union will terminate the implementation of all nuclear-related economic and financial sanctions, and the United States will cease the application of all nuclear-related secondary economic and financial sanctions, simultaneously with the IAEA verified implementation by Iran of its key nuclear commitments.
Now, the deadline for talks to end was March 31st, but negotiators said they were close. They kept talks going. This is the result. I'm Evan.
Hello, America. It's me, Richard, H&R Block Tax Pro. Did you know that more than 70% of Americans get refunds? If you haven't filed yet, there's no better time to come in and let the tax professionals at H&R Block get you every penny you deserve. Visit hrblock.com to schedule an appointment today. Same-day appointments are available, but they're filling up fast. Get your billions back, America.
Not everyone gets a refund. Statistics based on IRS data.
If you have Medicare Part D, Walgreens can put you at the corner of switching your prescriptions and saving some money. That's because Walgreens makes it easy to switch and save with copays as low as $0 on select Medicare Part D plans. Just bring us your prescriptions and we'll do the rest. Switch to save even more today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Applies to Tier 1 generics for select plans.
Hi, I'm Central York boys basketball coach Kevin Sheeler. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. I'm with Steve Navaroli and with Teddy Feinberg. A great group here. It's some of my 3 favorite Michigan area guys. The third one, no one asked me earlier on Twitter who the third one was. I was going Eminem 8 Mile on that one, but
I just thought you about
going.
So me and Steve are top 2, and he's 3.
Yeah, of course. Uncle Steve's segment, like I said, we're not going to do any quizzes or games this time. We'll save that for next week. There's some serious topics I want to get Steve's opinion on. First one up, we'll jump right into it. Matt Gould did a great column on the classification situation in football, going for 4 to 6 classes. I'm sure he's talked to you and talked to you off in the office, as we could imagine. But I wanted to get your opinion on the radio of the possible move or potential move from 4 to 6.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because a couple of us were talking about that. Steve Pugliano from the station here happened to be in when Teddy and I arrived, and he asked me, and he even said, "Well, you should talk about that this week." So you're giving me a great segue. We touched on it last week, Matt and I did, but I'm all in favor of it. I mean, and I've said it before. If a state like Connecticut or Maryland or Ohio can have 6 classifications, you mean to tell me one of the most populated states there is can't? I mean, you just look at the numbers in that. I've been witness to an amazing report done in 2006 on here are the benefits if you go to 6 classifications, but if that worries you, here are the benefits even if you just go to 5. And there was a ton of them.
Basically, moving up, there's benefits.
Yeah, there is. There really, really is. Now, I'm not suggesting going to 8 like some states have. I mean, I'm not trying to water the field down that much. This state could support 6. It won't happen. It absolutely will not happen. The Whitfield will never allow it to happen because it's all about football to them, and it's all about their football.
Now, what is that? Who will not let it?
That would be District 7, the Pittsburgh area. And listen, football rules Pittsburgh. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. College, professional, high school, whatever level you look at. And listen, one of the best high school football teams I've ever seen was Thomas Jefferson from District 7. And when they beat the year 2008, when West York won the district title, they got to go to Altoona and play this Thomas Jefferson team. And I was just like,
oh my gosh!
Wow,
I don't think they're going to win.
It was just amazing how good this football team is.
That's really cool.
And certainly, and you just look at the quarterbacks that came out of that area: historic Montana, Namath. It's an unbelievable list. Marino,
unbelievable list.
I mean, so. How good football is there. They certainly deserve to.
I mean, it's a way of life. It's a religion.
It's a way of life. It's a religion. It's like Texas wrapped up in a small area.
Right.
And you know that. And then do they deserve to have a say when it comes to it? Yes. I just think the blinders are up, and I just don't think they'll agree with it. They're going to say it waters down their championship.
Basically, it sounds like if they could play football year-round, they would.
Oh, absolutely. I'm convinced of that.
So they're not worried about a mid-December state championship.
But the worst part is it's not like they're bad in other sports. My gosh, they've got good wrestlers. Certainly good. They won state championships in basketball team. In basketball, they've got good swimmers. I get to see them at the state meet. I mean, they have other sports that are very good. Football's king, and anything that they feel will water down the effect of football, they're not going to go for it. And I will be shocked if it goes through.
Well, there you go, Brandon.
Nice. Another hot topic. A lot of football players are retiring in the NFL from concussion concerns. A lot of football players are retiring and saying they're not letting their kids play anymore in contact sports because of concussion concerns. Not to plug myself, I'm in the middle of doing a big story on concussions in youth. Met a young girl in Littlestown who's 15. She's had 5 sports concussions already. They're saying one more could really, could possibly kill her.
How does that happen?
She was a 2-sport player, softball and basketball, which are actually ranked both in the top 5 among concussion sports. She just has a string of bad luck.
Softball is ranked that high in concussion sports.
Yeah, that's a little surprising.
She actually got hit in the head with a bat by accident by a teammate in that sport. She took in a couple elbows in basketball. She fell a couple times. She has bad luck. First 3 didn't show any symptoms. 4th one, all of a sudden, now she can't even go to school. She's in doctors every day, rehab. Anyway, Steve, as a father of your son plays hockey, big contact sport, another big concussion sport. Have you ever had concerns about him sustaining head injuries? Is the first part of the question. And 2, is there a certain threshold, maybe 1 concussion and you're done? That's it. We're pulling you from sports. I'm not risking anymore. 2 head injuries. As a parent, what's your opinion on this?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have formulated to say, listen, once he gets 2 or 3, that's it. I think that a lot of the kids that I coach at the sport have had some kind of concussion. and that. But the problem is the recurrence. I mean, I think any kid can get one and that, just odd, thing. But when that kid starts getting 2 and 3, now we've got a trend. Now we've got, and let's face it, some, whether kid, adult, whatever age, some are more susceptible. Certainly if you've had one, you are automatically more susceptible. But when you're starting talking 3, 4, then you really need to think about it. I haven't really said, okay, would I make him quit playing because of concussions? No, at this point. But if he would get like 3 of them within a short amount of time, we would have to talk about it. We'd have to. I mean, you've got to think of long term, and you got to think of the future. He's not going to make the NHL. He's not going to get a college scholarship. And I think that's one of the dilemmas too that comes in is people think their kids are going to get college. This is going to get their sports going to get their kid into college. Well, that might not be realistic, but one way or the other, you got to think what is best for your athlete, for your child. And if some pro football players are now saying, hey, I wouldn't let my 10-year-old play football.
Or in the case of Borland, walking away.
Right, or walking away from millions of dollars. It's legitimate food for thought. It's made us all think. I know we have to do, periodic concussion training as a hockey coach, as a youth hockey coach. But it's still intimidating. I would like to say I'm trained. Scares the heck out of me, though.
Yeah.
Are there any sports where you'd be nervous watching him play with concerns about hip injuries like that? I mean, hockey's already one of the top ones.
Well, I mean, hockey's one of the top ones, and I think what happens is I believe the contact itself gets a little overblown. It's rarely concussions in hockey don't often come from a check. It's usually the after effect.
Face first into the boards.
Falling, yeah. I mean, falling face first in the boards. I mean, I know. Listen,
hitting the ice with your head.
First practice of the year, I'm on the ice. And kids are skating around. Kid was skating backwards, and he clipped my skates. My feet went out from under me, and I hit my head on the ice. Now I had a helmet on. I mean, if I didn't have a helmet on, I would have been concussed, no question about it.
It's interesting because the hockey, and maybe I'm just in the dark, but it doesn't get nearly the concussion spotlight that say a football. I mean, I understand why football.
Hockey doesn't get the spotlight in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I think that's a fair point, but it's a great game, but you don't even really hear it addressed. It's almost like the people.
You can listen. You can now I'm on a different soapbox because you can listen to ESPN radio all day. You can listen to whatever.
You're not
going to
get
Sports
through the
radio.
hockey conversations.
They're not even going to drop a dime on hockey.
Yeah,
they're not even going to mention it. Maybe in their scoreboard update, but even then, usually not.
I think that's why I like it.
So I mean, but to get back to your question, Brandon, I mean, certainly, is it concern? I mean. He wears a helmet, chin strap, mouthpieces. Mouthpieces are huge. I think everybody's like, well, we get the question a lot. Well, why do I have to wear a mouthpiece when I've got a full face mask on or a full face shield on? Well, it's because if you fall, one of the worst things you can happen if your jaw
bite done,
can cause a concussion. So that mouthpiece can help prevent a concussion.
No question.
So I mean, he's equipped as we can make him. He is. By no means does that mean that it won't happen. Would I be concerned if he came in tomorrow and said, I want to start playing football? I think a little bit. I think I would, but at this point, he's at the stage where I'm not going to worry about an injury per se. If he'd already had 3 concussions and came to me and said, I want to play football, I probably would not allow it then.
Sure.
Good point. Next question I had, we made jokes about how coming from Maryland, I didn't understand why there's no lacrosse on this side of the Mason-Dixon, and I didn't understand why guys play volleyball. Is there a specific reason where you can point out why boys volleyball has such a hotbed area, has such a great talent level here?
Let's start with your alma mater and Bruce Kohler. He got the ball rolling on volleyball in this area, or maybe not exclusively, but he needs to get a lot of the credit for it and early state championships. I mean, and you can look through the history at, just success breeds success. When you're good at a sport, it continues and it can feed into other schools then, and certainly Northeastern. Suburban's had some good runs. I mean, there is some legitimate talent, and it's funny because, if you just looked at the sheer location, this isn't Pepperdine. No. This isn't the West Coast. Right. And it just seems odd that right here, but I equate it much the same with Penn State. How can they be such a great lacrosse? Men's and women's volleyball. Men's and women's volleyball is phenomenal at Penn State. National championships, and they're located in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
This is not the West Coast, but yet, so I just think that it's come up through and it's grown, it's developed, and I do equate it to when an area gets good at a sport, they will continue. But like I said with the Whitfield with football,
it's exactly what we're talking about. It's been a theme.
District 3 and the York Adams League and boys volleyball and girls is good too. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but volleyball is incredible. Our club programs around here are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up a good point. When one team like a Central gets good, another team wants to get good to compete with them.
Yeah. Got to.
We've seen that in girls lacrosse. We mentioned earlier. Cannondale's been running the area for a while, but now Susky and York Catholic have been chasing them. But
success breeds success.
Yeah, but that's also made those teams better as well.
Oh, absolutely, and it should make them up and down better. I mean, I was talking with York Suburban boys volleyball coach Jamie Evans the other night at Central, and he was curious. Now his team did not play well. He said that he was really disappointed with that, but he kind of mentioned that. We know Northeastern's just on another level right now, but we know Central's very good as well. They compete in the AAA level, which is certainly harder. But when you look at where they are, and Suburban is saying, listen, they would like to be in that 1 or 2 position, but they're willing to battle it out. And there's going to be 4 teams just fighting tooth and nail for 3rd place in this league, and yet they'll be a good district team.
Yeah.
You finish 3rd in this league, especially when it's Northeastern, a AA, and a AAA team in front of you. If you're a Suburban, you're a AA team, you can make a district run by finishing 3rd in this league.
Another thing I wanted to get your opinion on, I put the question out on Twitter about a week or 2 ago, and it got some good response. All the cancellations with spring sports, all the cancellations, the postponements, it creates nightmares for scheduling, absolute nightmares. Is there a fix to it, though? I got some suggestions. What if we start the season later, but then it ends up running into June at that point? We can't start any earlier because it's still rain and snow in February. That doesn't really help you much.
You know what? I don't know.
I think we're just in a very tough geographic location.
It is, and you know what? Listen, some winters, and it's easy to say, well, there's no snow on the ground. Listen, this winter affected things, because and not just snow. The deep freeze. I mean, we went 8 weeks without getting above freezing.
It also came really late in the winter. February and March were actually worse than December, January.
Exactly. That's a great point, Ted. And because of it, the ground is sub 30 degrees for so long. Well, when it finally thaws, it brings moisture up to the surface.
Those fields are not playable.
Those fields are not playable. And so that becomes a concern. You can't go later because obviously you got graduation, but it's not just that. Proms, SAT scores. Mm-hmm. There's so much that goes on in the spring that's not athletic, and yet we're trying to put out a schedule of 8 sports
in a compacted space
in the shortest season of the year too. And that was why they said, okay, well, we're going to start a week earlier. Although I think most people knew when they said, okay, we're going to start a week earlier. Well, okay, these games aren't going to take place.
Actually, I'm going to say right now, at the beginning of this, it was so bad at the beginning of the spring. I was like, they're not going to play a game until April. I mean, I literally got all worked up about this.
I did too. I said the same thing, and amazingly, the props to the ground crews at the school.
I agree.
Because amazingly, they were able to get on their fields this week. I was not 2 weeks ago. I was not convinced they would be playing baseball and softball this week. So, I'll give them some props and say, good job. It's a problem. It's a concern. I don't know of a way to fix it, especially in a heavily populated area with an extensive District 3 tournament, as Central PA. How are you going to go earlier?
Just build a giant dome.
Yeah. And play tournament style, for your non-league stuff.
Favorite softball or baseball memory?
Wow.
From the area.
Boy, you know what? I mean, I got to go with there's 3 of them. Certainly back-to-back state champs for West York baseball. Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
I mean, to be there at Penn State for those and watch, these teams and the way they did it 2 different ways. First year, they rode Caden Hepler. He pitched every game in the tournament because there was enough time to do that. But the next year, they wrote it with Carson Freeze coming on in relief and pitching the last 2 innings of basically every game, and a different starter and a different lineup, and yet they were able to come back, and it's just because they're used to winning, tradition. Let's go back a few years. Susquehannock softball, back-to-back state championships. Obviously, softball, you're able to ride a good pitcher. They also had a good shortstop. They could cut down runs. All 4 of these years now, both the West York's years and both the Susquehannock's years, they were 3rd place in District 3. You get hot at the right time. I talked about going out west for football. Well, you want to go out west to play baseball, and you want to get in the Western bracket tournament. And it didn't apply as much to West York because I know they played in the eastern part of the tournament, but matchups, it was huge for Susquehannock softball.
Is there anything like covering a state tournament run?
No.
As a reporter, you ride that emotional
just think
roller
about, and it was also nice, just to cover what we covered last spring, 2 in 2 hours. 2 state champions.
I could only imagine what that was.
It was incredible, and
I think I would have had a heart attack.
Northeastern and Central. One other one quick was Central York 2005 softball. They won the district title, and this area before then, New Oxford won a district title, but there and one of the small schools did, but there wasn't a lot of success to this point. Central was that first really big school. New Oxford wasn't as big when they won. I believe they were AAA. Mm-hmm. Here, Central is this quad A school. And we're seeded like 9th going into the tournament. Well, they win out of the gate. They win a game. Okay, well that was winnable. Then they take out the number 1 seed, and I covered all 4 of those games, and you just got to know the team so well by doing it. And by now, and I remember their second round game was over in Elizabethtown, and they won that game. And I remember talking to Brad Jennings, who was a sports editor at the time, and I said, hey, they won, and okay. Then this was before the days of Twitter and that. And yeah, they won. He said, okay. He said, well, when will they play next? I said, here. I said, I want to put in now. I want to work that next game.
Yeah,
I want to be a part
exactly.
of that. And and it just got the point where it was expected. And that was just a really, really cool experience to see and go through.
Yeah, I bet.
So those would be my favorite baseball and softball. I can't put one above the other.
Okay. Next 3 questions I have for you are more quick fire, not as much deep thought. When I went to Littlestown to cover softball yesterday, Littlestown is always very gracious and welcoming. No schools are rude to reporters that I've seen here. Everyone's very nice. Mm-hmm. Littlestown has stuck out, especially yesterday. I mean, parents want to chat you up. The kids are like, oh, is that the reporter? We want to talk to the reporter. Coaches are very, go out of their way to help you. ADs are helpful.
Sounds like it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I mean, no schools are rude, but are there any that stand out to you as extra welcoming? I guess
very hospitable.
Very hospitable.
Well, it's funny because they were always one with football. Mm-hmm. I know
Coach Lippy.
Going there with Coach Lippy, but their press box, they were always very accommodating, and would say, hey, so and so's here from, and not to get credit. Now, obviously, I have a spoiled notion with swimming, and that's pretty much, when I'm able to walk onto a swimming deck, everybody's accommodating. Just, I've been around that sport
part of that community
so long. I mean, yeah, in all essence, I'm part of that community. But, if you look at it at a school, within itself, I mean, you're right. I mean, rarely. I mean, I think one time did I have somebody look at my press pass and say, well, you're not allowed to enter with that. And that was just somebody who misunderstood.
Very courteous across the board.
But they really, really are. And I would say that is typical, of the area. But it makes sense. Let's not, be rude. Because we want to come back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that they have a vested interest in it.
Yeah. But Littlestown always did it. They're bringing you snacks up and that. And I'm not saying that they got to bring food. That's not exactly it. Central does a
great. They don't have to. It's great.
Yeah, see, it's cool. Wait, listen, we're reporters. We'll take free food. Central's always very gracious because they host a lot of big events and that, be it volleyball or basketball and that. And I know AD Marty Trimmer's always like, hey Steve, make sure you stop down at the lounge type thing, and very accommodating.
Baseball opening day this weekend. Best baseball movie?
To me, it's Major League.
I love Major League. I also love There's scenes from the movie of The Natural that I love, particularly when he first gets to the ballpark. They're a terrible team. The manager's Pop Fisher. His first batting practice. Those are magical movie scenes to me. From start to finish, though, Major League's my favorite movie.
Yeah, and Bull Durham was really good. Really liked Bull Durham. 8 Men Out. I mean, there's been a
Do we consider Field of Dreams?
I see that's more of a fantasy.
It's kind of a
crossover. You can say it's a fantasy about baseball. So, and I certainly... I enjoyed that movie, although I sometimes I have trouble suspending disbelief, although there was very little believable about Major League. It just was sheer comedy from the first minute to the last, and that's what I want to see comedy.
It was also, I'm totally with you, and again, there's just there's just something about that. They really captured baseball. There was something about that movie that was just great.
Well, yeah, and oh my goodness, you got Bob Uecker in it. I mean, how can you go wrong there? And there was just so much about that movie that was fun. And me, I don't want a movie that's going to make me think.
There's also something about that movie, and I'm just kind of, I'm definitely with Nav on that one, but there's something about that movie also, the fact that it's based on the Cleveland Indians. It's not on the Yankees, it's on the Dallas Cowboys, it's on the Cleveland Indians. I mean, it's classic.
Well, and then Matt Gould would certainly agree with you there, being an Indian.
Filmed in Milwaukee County Stadium.
Second one filmed in Camden Yards.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, I can't believe they made a sequel.
Major League was great. I had a soft spot for Hardball for some reason, even though Keanu Reeves is awful. I thought Hardball was cool. And 42, the Jackie Robinson movie, was very good as well.
Yeah, I saw 42 recently. Major League takes the cake.
Major League.
Hey, the 61 series that Billy Crystal did on HBO on Roger Maris was terrific.
Really?
It wasn't a series. It was a movie Billy Crystal directed. It was phenomenal. But again, that was great. And but if I want to be entertained, I want to laugh.
Yeah.
World Series prediction. Last thing.
Oh, my heart says the Tigers, but you know what? Probably going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be Dodgers this year.
It's so hard for me to say. I actually did a lot of looking at spring training this year, more so than I typically do. And honestly, if I have to pick a dark horse team, I like the White Sox.
Wow.
Adam LaRoche pickup, Melky Cabrera, very underrated player. Got Jeff Samardzija. They got a little 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation. With Chris Sale, obviously, he was nothing short of sensational.
Yeah. That AL Central is going to be the whole AL. I think is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm interested with the Central, obviously, because Kansas City was such a Cinderella last year. I have Chicago as my sleeper, and there's something about. I love the Tigers. They'll always be my favorite team.
Indians
aren't
bad either.
For some reason, I'm a little concerned about the Tigers.
Yeah, I agree. I am too.
I would love. I've been saying it for the past 3 years. I would love a Beltway series. I want Orioles Nationals. From being a Maryland kid, I want that series to happen.
You should want that series. You're not going to get it.
No, right now I'd be more confident in the Nationals from the NL. I think last year was the Orioles' year to do it, and they missed out. But
Marlins made some crazy pickups in the NL East.
And dozens of people will notice.
It was so weird. I was watching a game. Ichiro plays for them. I'm like, what is this? I can't watch this. This is weird.
Great talk, guys. I enjoyed that.
Thank you, Brandon.
Awesome.
No problem.
I did too.
We're going to head to break now. We'll be right back with some All-Star, some listener interaction stuff in our later segments. But thank you guys for joining us. We're heading to break. See ya.
The new Wyndham Garden York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall, has been fully renovated and remodeled. With 177 upgraded guest rooms, over 16,000 square feet of meeting space, 2 large ballrooms, indoor and outdoor pools, a much larger fitness center, a new business center, and free Wi-Fi throughout. The new Fender's Grill and Pub features American cuisine in a casual atmosphere, using local meats, produce, wine, and craft beers. The new Wyndham Garden, 2000 Loucks Road in York. Stop in or call us at 846-9500.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey.
And the Washington Capitals.
Here in a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill. And don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 $100 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate. The last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. And skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to YorkSkate.com.
Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year, Mark Mason, for Revs Hot Stove Weekly, every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus, fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm West York girls basketball coach Darryl Wilbison. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
We're back on Game Day with Game Time PA, and got to promote our All Stars. This week rolled out
an award-winning All-Star package. Won the Keystone Award recently.
And the photographer. I mean, honestly, as a part of the All Stars, and that's certainly I do the swimming All Stars. Big shock there, but. How about the photography by Chris Dunn? This entire series,
consistently outstanding.
The fall ones with the golf and the cross country in the park, awesome photos.
I was scared of the golf team.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
she made the golf team look
and the tennis team
and the swimming team this time, and the pool was awesome picture. The basketball it was great job all around.
Yeah, and what's amazing is let's look at the girls swim team. She's got them all looking bad. Those are some of the nicest doggone kids. I mean, these are kids.
When you say like bad, you mean like bad to the bone.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're always smiling. They're just bubbly, nice kids in there. She's got them looking.
She brings out the intimidation factor.
She really does, and it's not easy to do.
Project looks good. I will also say this: good in print, good online. It transcends both.
And certainly,
platforms.
Yeah, certainly. Is expelled some controversy in that. And the one thing to know, we have. Shortened up or the All-Stars we do now are a smaller number.
Tightened it down.
Than what we've done in the past. And I think that's creating, some I don't want to know, concern or whatever, but that's bothering people because, there's years that I could tell you some kids would be named to the All-Star team that didn't get named strictly because we cut the field down.
And I don't think it's an easy selection process for you guys.
It took us a whole day to do the fall ones.
Yeah.
And then it took.
The war room is intense.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I think the winter sports was one of the easier ones because with basketball, we have stats and that, but we have, obviously, I take care of the swimming and I let everybody else deal with the wrestling because I typically don't see any wrestling all year.
Right.
But but I know that the fall, when you got to the field hockey and the soccers, and certainly we're going to deal with it this spring with the lacrosses and that. It's not easy because a lot of times you don't see everybody. I mean, I can tell you what, I could look at the basketball and say, I did not see them all year. I didn't, and it's it's hard. I mean, we have a very reduced number of people covering a lot more sports than like our compadres to the north who they focus on one sport.
Right.
We do a little bit of it over the winter with obviously me and swimming, but we all do basketball. We all, and I, if somebody said to me, do you think you lose something in translation? Yes. Particularly in the fall and the spring, because we don't specialize a sport.
Right.
And we just don't have the staff to do it. And, when I look at it, I say, hey, it's just, it's the way it is, but at least the presentation, I'll tell you, is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think the job is very well done. Again, it won a prestigious Keystone Award for the Fall All-Star Series, I believe. And obviously our assistant sports editor, Jess Sprinkle, does a great job organizing it, and the execution by Steve, Brandon, Matt. I don't want to start naming names because then you leave someone out, which is the last thing I want to do. The product itself is very good. And it comes to the territory in this day and age when you're making picks like this in our, I hate to say everyone gets a trophy society, but, there's going to be if you're left out, it's going to be upsetting. And to tell you the truth, I could understand that if I was a parent, I want my kid on there.
Yeah, right.
But I think, what were some particularly difficult, or which ones in the war room did you guys find to be a little more difficult than others, maybe this past winter, from the winter selections?
I think girls basketball up and down was probably because you had, you probably had maybe the easiest choice for player of the year. But from there, it got really murky really quick. Yeah. And we were able to say, okay, all right, this is where we would take the 5, but then the next 5, and 3, we could have thrown 3 other players into that next 5 and still been legitimate. Yeah. And that's where, that was the toughest one, and I think that's where we'll face the sharpest, and where we have already faced some of the sharpest criticism in that. And I get that, because, but we could have done it any one of a number of ways and still would have been, it's just, it's part of it. To me, girls basketball was pretty much the toughest. I think the boys, kind of the way that things shook out in that, I actually thought that went rather smooth.
Yeah, I think with the boys, I think 1 through probably I thought 1 through 4, 1 through 5 was pretty set, and then after that, it got really.
But it gets more. That second team gets really murky, or that if you have 6 people on the first team, that number 6 is can be a tough one, because you could find 4 deserving.
And in some cases, you're splitting hairs.
Oh, you really are. You really are, and depending on who sees who.
Yeah, and some of us have seen it when maybe he wasn't having a good game. Some of us saw him during an off game.
And that's probably the biggest issue, if you will, because you can't help but remember a difficult game. And and I think it's easy for us to put too much stock on that, but we can also put too much stock into a great game,
right?
And that's where it becomes difficult, and where if you're covering only one sport, you're going to see almost all the all-stars at some point in time.
Right. Yeah, no,
now, swimming is easier because, number one, it's a lot of times, it's their places, but for me, it's the places that they achieved at the league meet, what they did during the season, but then the places they achieved at the league meet, the district meet, the state meet. Well, I've got all that. I've got that in my hands when I do the swimming all-stars.
Right.
You don't have that when you do the other sports.
If you can't see everyone, I'd like to think that, again, you want to see these guys playing the game. There's no debate. Mm-hmm. You guys are very good journalists. You're very well sourced, and
it was easier when the coaches did it. Believe me, because then I could just say, "Well, sorry, they didn't get voted for." Now I can't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, great art by Chris, and I think the content is very strong per usual. So.
And it generated conversation, whether people like it or don't like it.
People are certainly reading it.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's similar. It's like it's a seasonal reminder of the top 10 athlete series that we did several years ago. That sometimes people are still even talking about. I mean, talk about a conversation starter, and and it was a lot of, how could you put so and so on your list, and I got a letter for one of them I won't mention. I think I did 4 schools. And I got a letter on one of them that somebody said, well, how could you pick them? They were a jerk.
Yeah.
I wasn't picking their personality. And especially because some of these people were from the 50s, from the 60s. I didn't know them. I've been around a long time, not that long.
This isn't uncommon. I mean, ESPN.com does their power rankings every week. They have a comment section below.
Yeah.
People take issue with
fan, a wise man told me one time, fan is short for fanatic.
Yes.
You know?
ESPN does like the
I
top
understand it.
top 500. Like they rank every NBA player 1 through 500. I'm glad we don't have to do that because people will sit there and argue how you have him 373 instead of 365. Like, why?
Yeah,
Right.
You know, right. Yeah, why? When, NBA, you could just say top 5 are these guys and, have at it. So, all right. Well, let's go to another break. We'll be back, and I don't know if we have any listener stuff, but we'll have something to talk about after these messages. You're listening to Game Day with Game Time PA.
At Northwestern Mutual, we take a disciplined and balanced approach to financial planning. Together, we'll help build your financial future on time-tested principles, not market trends, so you can take advantage of life's opportunities. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on a square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm Daryl Henry. Join Scott Geis and me every Monday at 4 for your College Spartan Sports Weekly, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Each week, we bring you the latest in Spartan sports, featuring guest appearances from coaches and student athletes. York's home teams play on York's home for local sports. Spartan Sports Weekly, Mondays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Ryan Vipperman of Kennardale Baseball. The numbers tell the story in this one, what was a very unique no-hit performance from Vipperman. 10 strikeouts, 11 walks, and a 9-2 win over New Oxford. And this week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Morgan Day of Kennardale Lacrosse. Day netted 12 goals in a 2-game span, netting 5 goals in a 17-7 win over West York on Tuesday, then tallied 7 goals and an assist in a 19-1 win over Red Lion. For Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, I'm Ray Jensen.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit shipleyenergy.com.
Dear Lancaster Barnstormers. Sincerely, the York Revolution and Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Get your tickets today at YorkRevolution.com.
Hi, I'm Dover boys basketball coach Brian Schmoyer. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Well, we just did this with the All-Star thing, but we're going to keep doing it. We like to talk about our work, and we do like to talk about our social media properties and kind of the engagement we've been receiving, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook pages. Certainly like to create a buzz in those worlds, and a couple things caught the masses' eye this past week. We'll start out by talking Matt Gould's column that Brandon brought up about the PIAA possibly, unlikely, but possibly, at least discussing expansion to 6 classifications. This had a lot of interaction on Facebook, about 13 comments, which is very strong for us, 3 shares. Gerald Griever, I thought he had an interesting point. This was addressed in Matt's commentary. Catholic and private schools in their own division. He said that's unfair. It's an inherent advantage, essentially, of the private school over the public school. Do we have a solution to that issue? I'm sure you agree to a degree.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure, doesn't Maryland put them in their own private, yes. If I remember correctly, yes. Private schools and Catholic schools were in their own separate league anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is, the number of states that do it and that don't do it. I'd be curious what that is. Certainly, I see the reason for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We have 2 Catholic schools in our league, and they don't. People talk about competitive advantage. I don't see York Catholic and Dillon having. I mean, they're good in several sports, but I mean, it's not like they just absolutely dominate across the board.
No, I think the concern would be more that power, private school or think a lot of people are pointing to District 12 for that. You know, they're saying, well, geez, that school, half their kids are from New Jersey. You know what I mean? And that's, those are concerns, and they're legitimate concerns. And, is that a competitive advantage when, you're not tied? They're not tied. Even a York Catholic or Delone Catholic isn't necessarily tied to York County or Adams County. Right. But I think it's more of a natural thing for those two schools where, again, you take a look at, District 12, those private schools, I don't know what the rules are, if there are.
Right. Well, they clearly, it's clearly an interesting dilemma. There's some talk here. Damon Schoen, for instance, suggests having districts, some with boundaries, or geographic boundaries, and some without boundaries. Is that feasible in this state?
I would like to know more about about the deeper part of the point. Is it feasible? Maybe. I think sometimes you look at, there's pockets of the state that aren't good at particular sports. So why would they get 3 automatic bids to the state tournament when they're just going to get crushed?
Right.
So if he's talking about that, I think it's a legitimate point. But yeah, if we're talking strictly public versus private, it's that's a debate that's been going on for years. I don't see it going away.
Right. If you guys want to join the discussion, that is on Facebook.com/GameTimePA. You can go there, scroll down, you will see a link to Matt's story. You will see comments below that. People have interesting things to say. Even Matt will jump into the conversation occasionally. He did in this case. Another one of our guys, Jim Sipe, wrote a Sunday. Matt's column came out on Sunday. Jim's social media story came out on Sunday. This was on the heels of, I have the name written down here, obviously the young man who he tweeted out about Monet Davis, Joey Cassenberry, baseball player there. He's a Methacton graduate. He tweeted out a derogatory term about Monet Davis. Obviously, in this world of social media, the tweet gets out there. The next thing you know, it's wildfire. The house is burned down. The forest in the backyard is burned down. It's going to the street. So Jim took a look at social media, in particularly from a high school standpoint, a little bit and maybe in a local regional college standpoint. What are the policies in place? How do coaches feel about social media? Are there programs that just straight up outlaw social media? Came out very good. Again, front page C1 of our sports section on Sunday. We've talked at length about this, I feel like publicly and privately. We've talked about it on the radio show. Certainly it's been even a bone of contention in the office. I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I would have a real hard time with this if I was a coach. I think my gut intuition is crazy as I would not want my kid I wouldn't want it in season. No, I would not want my kids messing with that.
And I know why you're saying it. And let me tell you what, I thought that Jim's story, touched on a local athlete who really had a very, it's the word I'm looking for, inappropriate Twitter handle. And that, and and Jim, obviously this young man has grown up a lot in the last 2 years, and Jim talked to him, and and basically he is saying, well, I was a dummy for doing that. Colleges didn't look at me because of it, and my tip to the athletes out there, but also just any student out there, it's permanent. Yeah, you can put a tweet out there and go, oh wait, I'll delete it. It's out. It's out. And don't, and listen, this goes to Facebook posts. If you're a college athlete, don't be putting Facebook posts out with your red Solo cup.
Right.
Right. I'm not, I'm not somebody to say don't drink in college. I'm not going to do that because I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world.
Right.
However, you know what? I didn't have to worry about social media. You do. And if you're there on any kind of a scholarship, whether it's academic, whatever, even if the rules appear to be different, so be it. And, if you had the privilege of playing a sport that helped you get into that college, respect it.
Whether you know it or not, you are held to a different standard.
There's no question
so
about it. And you know what? But I think the high school athlete, and I think locally, I think our kids do a pretty good job of it.
We even have some coaches on Twitter now, too, in the local area.
It's a very slippery slope. It's a very fine line, and it's a completely different world.
You could be angry at, you could lose a game to a team you thought you should beat, and if you tweet something to that effect, it's going to be taken derogatory.
Reality is this: I could only imagine being a high school student in the social media climate that we live in. I mean,
I think there's some neat benefits to it, but there's also, it's a double-edged sword that you better be careful you don't fall on.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Brandon?
Another thing, the double-edged sword thing, it's a lot of kids use it for great. They promote the sports, they promote themselves.
Yeah.
They do a great job with it. During football season, there were some heated rivalries, and the night before the games always got really nasty on Twitter. And if you're a 16, 17-year-old kid and some kid from a school you hate starts talking about your girlfriend or your family or your mom, it's going to be hard to restrain.
You're not holding back.
You're not holding back. And then things get bad. They end regarding it, deleting it. Most coaches said they hated that part of the game. They hated Twitter the night before. I only ran into one or two coaches who said they loved it. And they thought it amped up the atmosphere, which is, I guess, is how you depend on how you look at it. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it just you're going to get yourself in trouble. And at 16, 17, I probably wouldn't have had the control and restraint to stop from firing back.
So just since we're highlighting Jim's story, and again, I realize we have to go to break pretty soon, but I just want to make a couple interesting comments. First of all, I absolutely loved what Spring Grove boys basketball coach James Brooks said. I'm going to repeat it word for word. I really stress to our players to keep it under control because one tweet about something inappropriate or one post sent at the wrong time can cause serious problems. Mm-hmm. I think this is the great part, I think they all understand how to use it, but I don't know if they understand what lasting effect it can have.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful call. I'll also say this. Lebanon Athletic Director Sam Elias, he said, we talk to our athletes and coaches about choices they make in social media. My captain's meetings, we emphasize it each season. We have a student policy. This is a topic that every school is dealing with currently, and I'm constantly concerned about what's around the corner as our kids get more exposed to the technology. Again, it's a fine line we're all walking, and then I'll leave it on this note. Millersville University Director of Athletic Communications, Ethan Holstein, he actually said, and I understand this part too, they actually encourage their student athletes to use it responsibly because they realize in college, athletics can often be the front porch of your school.
Mm-hmm. I think that his comments were really interesting in that story, and I highly would recommend somebody, if you didn't read it, please try to find it and check it out. I mean, one of the things I look at is, I'm going to give you a quick example, and I know we're late for break, but I knew of a local kid who graduated,
right.
two-sport athlete, was away at college playing football, tweeting at 4 a.m. about a party he just left.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, and he's going to get up for practice the next morning. Okay, flunked out of school. Not that was a shock.
Right.
Perception, though. He could have been a great student, and I'm going to sit there, read those tweets, and say, what an awful student. He must be,
And the kids who aren't athletes can't get away with that stuff either.
Absolutely.
Because when you go for a job interview or you put an application in, one of the first things they look at is your Twitter and Facebook.
Well, again, it's a fine line.
Everything's out.
But on the flip side, if you use it responsibly and it's going to be a real benefit.
No, it's a great thing responsibly, but that's the key, responsibly. And Brandon's absolutely right. An employer can look at that and say, oh my gosh, look at that kid's tweeting at 3 a.m.
Look how he carries himself. We don't want him
exactly
in our business.
So yes, use it. I recommend it. We love it. We use it, but be responsible.
You need to use social media in 2015. Period. Point blank. There's no two ways about it. Use your head when you are doing it.
No, that's the bottom line. So
I just sound like Uncle Steve.
That was well done too.
Thank you.
Well done. Well, we're going to come back to wrap things up with a quick "What Did We Learn" segment. After this, you're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Kids of all ages will learn how to feel comfortable on ice, how to stand, and perhaps most importantly, how to fall properly. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. Classes are taught by York Ice Arena skating instructors from White Rose Figure Skating Club. No skates? No problem. Skate rental is included in your registration. Or get on the ice for our York Ice Arena hockey programs. York Ice Arena coaches will focus on teaching proper techniques needed for anyone interested in playing hockey. Rental equipment is available for beginning players, both boys and girls. So get on the ice. Learn to skate. Learn to play. Sign up now. Group skating lessons and beginners hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to yorkskate.com and click on program info. York Ice Arena, the coolest place in town.
Cannonball Charlie has his ammunition.
Here he swings and hammers it. Watch this one go. It's a game winner.
York Revolution baseball is back.
It's deep. It is gone. A high drive deep down the left field line. It is gone. A walk-off.
Take that, every other team. The new Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm Red Lion Boys basketball coach Steve Schmale. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
And we're back on Game Day with Game Time PA to wrap up this week's segment. Join us every Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. Same back time, same back channel here on WOYK Sports Radio 1350 and the 1350 mobile app. I've gotten a text today that the mobile app's working good. We like hearing that, and certainly you have the ability to watch us if you dare at GameTimePA on our video, our live stream of the broadcast. And on those notes, what'd you learn today?
Gosh, I usually take notes like as I go on the program, so I'm not caught flat-footed on what I learned. I don't. Brandon, you go first.
I was going to push it to you first. Steve, you have anything to go first?
Nobody learned anything today. No. You know what? I think we learned that, this is more about talking sports. I think some of the social issues probably need to be brought into this a little bit more, and I think our last two segments, we covered that pretty well.
I learned that Cannondale is a great spring athletic program. They are at the top of softball. They're at the top of lacrosse. Maybe not baseball, which we talked about.
I learned that Steve took a wicked fall in hockey practice, and the helmet saved him from having a serious concussion.
And he taught us how important mouthpieces are.
Yes, a great call. Yeah, no, I did learn some things. See?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I didn't know if you guys.
Honestly, if we couldn't learn anything during this 2-hour block, we would be pathetic.
Yeah, well, that's true, and believe me, I took a nasty one, and everybody, to the point everybody's like, "Are you okay?"
Like a hush fell over the ice. Oh
yeah. Are you okay? And I got up and said, Yeah, I'm all right. I thought about, do I have a headache? Do I have anything like that? So.
And Brandon attended his first NHL game this past week.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I learned how cool hockey is. And if you haven't seen it, go see a game live. You have a different respect for the sport. Absolutely, it's more. You can actually see the puck.
Yeah, it's cool. Now it's
way
my
better
favorite.
in person.
Yeah, we know that. So, all right, guys, let's wrap it up. We'll be back next week at 4 to 6 on Thursday. You've listened to Game Day with Game Time PA.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.